Hello, and a very, very good evening to all of you. Thank you for being here, and we are so excited to bring you yet another episode of Hen Live. It's been so exciting to keep coming to you week over week and sharing everything that we have to give you, right? So, we are Hen India, her entrepreneurial network, a networking platform for women led businesses where each of us hashtag belong with Hen. Who is Hen? Hen is a community of women entrepreneurs like you and me, focused on inspiring, informing, and supporting each other to build successful businesses along with balanced lives. Every week, we bring you Hen members who are making a difference not only by sharing their expertise with the world, but also helping us build a stronger community. I'm your host for the evening, Gunjan, and I'm delighted to bring you today's guest, Neha Goyal, on stage. Hi,
Hi
Neha. How are you?
Gunjan,
Good evening.
I'm so excited to be here. I am
Awesome.
hoping we'll have an interesting conversation for the next 30 minutes.
We will. We will. I'll take a moment to introduce you and then we will go down to what we're going to talk about today. Right. So, everyone, Neha is a chartered accountant and co founder of NNG and Company. She brings 10 years of experience in accounting, taxation, FEMA, and CFO services. She's an expert in cloud accounting, which is QuickBooks, Zoho, Zero, with a focus on MSMEs and startups across diverse industries, which sounds super relevant to me. She's very passionate about financial literacy and building efficient finance systems, which is why she's here with us today, and that's what I want to talk to her about, right? Great. So Neha, so happy to have you with us to here today.
My
Right. So I'll
pleasure.
Awesome. I'll quickly jump into what we're going to talk about today. So we are going to talk about books and bookkeeping, right? And coming from the cold, right? Trying to connect with all of us who might be watching us today. If you can just really, simplify this technical term for us, right? Potentially, we are all doing it in some form or the other. Most likely, we don't know that we are actually doing it, right? So very happy to get a very simplified definition from you as we start off.
So Gunjan, essentially bookkeeping is just recording your day-to-day transactions, right? So every rupee that you spend in your business has to be categorized, has to be accurately recorded. We need
Sure.
to know what category that expense belongs to. If you've earned any rupee that you earn or any rupee that you spend, it just needs to be recorded, and that is bookkeeping in the simplest. I can That's the simplest way I can define bookkeeping, right? So any
Sure.
sales you've done, any purchases, any receipts, any payments, when you
Mm,
record all of them accurately and
mm.
correctly, that is what bookkeeping ideally is. It's as
Okay.
simple as that.
Okay. And what might be a typical process in which to do it? Is it like an Excel sheet, or how does one start off with it at a very basic level?
So honestly, when you start your bookkeeping, it just depends on the stage your business is at, right? So say you've just started your business today. I can't tell you, Gunjan, you've just started your business today. Let's just get into the whole software zone. Let's just purchase this software. Let's invest here and there. The whole idea is that you may not be an accounting expert, but you need to know where your money goes. You need to be close to the numbers. The
Mm,
idea is you can start with an Excel sheet. You can
mm,
even use a notebook at the very beginning to record your transactions. Eventually and slowly, as your business grows,
mm.
it's ideal that you digitize your records. You record it using accounting software, because these records will come in handy later.
Makes
So
sense.
it totally depends on the size of your business. You can
Makes
use softwares like Tally, Zoho, QuickBooks. You can use something as simple as a notebook or an Excel spreadsheet to record your transactions. But I strongly advise that you must use something, and you need to be on top of your numbers.
It sounds like a good habit that every entrepreneur should have, right? Very simply put.
Yeah, see, bookkeeping is all about discipline. And that is
Mm,
why it's so boring. You need to do the same boring stuff every day. And that is
mm.
why most people are very scared or intimidated when you ask them to talk about accounts or bookkeeping, because that's one area of the business which is like anything else that is repetitive. It's very, very boring.
Makes sense.
A
Makes
lot of
sense.
times you tend to procrastinate such things because it's not something that you can truly be excited about. You can't be like, oh, I'm very excited to come sit, note down all my expenses for the day or whatever sales I've done. You kind of feel that, okay, I'll do it later. I just know all the numbers on the top of my head. I kind of remember. But when it comes to being into that discipline of maintaining the records, it's tough, but it's very, very essential. It's almost non negotiable.
Wow, you're giving a whole new spin to it for me. Like you're almost, likening it to like possibly a workout to somebody who's not a workout addict, right? It's the thing that you need to do with discipline every day at various levels of course, their commitment or their requirement, but it's something that's non-negotiable. Never thought of bookkeeping like that. Very
Because,
true.
see, Gunjan, the whole point is how will you measure something? How will you improve it?
Yeah,
Right? So, if
yeah,
you're running a business and if something is going wrong, if you do not have the data,
yeah.
how do you go ahead and improve it and make it better?
Yes. Yes, we get that. Makes sense. Makes sense. And uh, since you were speaking about different types of businesses needing it, right? Could you give me, say, one example of a very startup business and one slightly more advanced business to just, further clarify to somebody who may still be having that last bit of doubt that why do I need it and do I really need it? Uh, you know, just to kind of remove that last.
There's so many examples that I can think of, but yeah, I'll go with a very generic one, something that a lot of especially product businesses kind of face day to day. So
Sure.
what happened is that there was this one business owner. She was into products. Now, what happens when you just start out? You're purchasing from vendors. You're making ad hoc payments to them. Most of these conversations they happen over WhatsApp. The vendor messages you, pay 20,000 for
Hmm.
XYZ. You're making ad hoc payments. Some of your payments are through cash, some through check, some through UPI. So it's also spread out. It's not, there's no consistency. Sometimes you've purchased, say, five things and you've made an ad hoc payment. It's not tagged invoice wise, right? So now what happens is that once you're doing it with many, many vendors, and then if I come and ask you, Gunjan, can you tell me how much do you owe this particular party?
Hmm.
You're like, I'm not sure. No, you're not
Sure.
sure whether that person. Now that person comes to you and says, Gunjan, you owe me 50,000. You're like, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to check all my WhatsApp chats right from the beginning. I'll have to make sure that I collect my bank statement, see how much I've paid through my Google Pay, how much I've paid through my through checks, through cash, and now I don't know. So this escalates really quickly. When it's like few transactions, you feel you're on top of things, you know your numbers, you're in charge of everything. But so there was this one client who came to us and who was constantly worried. They didn't know how much their vendors owed, how much they owed their vendors. People used to come to them, ask for money. They weren't sure how much they have to recover from their customers as well. So once we put all the records together, once the ledgers were in place, then you
Hmm.
could see that, okay, this much is outstanding for this particular person, this much is what people owe me, this is what I owe people. And when you have that data, that clarity, you can negotiate better, you can get better credits from those vendors, you can also build trust because there's no constant to and fro happening.
Sure.
So that trust that you build with your vendors or with your customers, that goes a long, long way into building big businesses. So this is a very small example, but very, very common with businesses that have just started.
Absolutely
Because
makes a lot of sense. No?
and especially today, when all the business is happening over WhatsApp, where everything happens over a phone call, we do not have a trail of records, and it's
So
really,
true.
really
This
difficult
happens so
sometimes.
much. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This happens so much even to me that, simple, bits are just discussed on a very friendly note on WhatsApp, and
Yes.
later on it just becomes a nightmare to trace those. Yes.
Right. So this happened. This is one example for a smaller business. Now, for a bigger business, so what happened is that I can think of one particular example. This business was into exports of
Mm.
services, and whenever you make exports, there are much more compliances that you need to maintain when it comes to documentation, right?
Mm.
So this person was doing good, big business, mid-sized business, but
So,
3 years later, there was an income tax scrutiny. When the
okay.
scrutiny came and when the officers from the department came, now they are asking for all these documents, and you do not have a physical copy of those documents or a digital copy of those documents because you probably kept it then, but you've not kept those records for so many years afterwards.
Hmm.
Now what has happened, there is a huge demand, tax demand notice, And without producing those records or those documentation, you cannot do anything about it. So we
Sure.
had to go back retrospectively, contact all the banks, get the FIRC, inward remittance certificates, those export documents, rebuild the whole bookkeeping system retrospectively. Only then could we, challenge that notice. We could even reply to that notice, and thankfully the client got away with very minimal, tax additions. But sometimes for the bigger your business, the bigger risk you run.
Exactly. And all of this actually could be avoided by just keeping a good habit, right?
Yeah, because it's all about discipline and good habit. It needs to, either you do it yourself if you're
Yeah.
still into that stage where you feel you can make time. If you
Yeah.
can't, please let someone else do it for you. But this needs to be done. People
Yes.
don't realize that your bookkeeping data needs to be maintained for eight long years.
Yeah,
Today,
I'll come to that because that is a very important question that's
yeah,
there on my mind. But before that, I just want to say that, I think initially wanted to ask you that, why people are averse. And you already started on that note, which was so interesting that it's not the fear of jargon which keeps people away, but it's the fear of, abhi mujhe karna padega, so this will have to become a game of discipline, which anyways I don't want to, keep. This is not a discipline that I want to acquire, right? So it was very interesting to note that as a behavior pattern. And also what I capture from our conversation is that from the example that you gave where you spoke about, somebody who had it versus the whole rigmarole that had to be taken care of because they didn't have it, that if you have it, it can be such a big game changer in terms of saving you time, saving you effort, saving you all of that headache, and it also gives you more confidence, I believe, to know where your money is coming from, where it's going, etc., right? But yes, now coming to, this whole thing that you were talking about, that how does one do it, and what is the stage when one starts it, and how does one, when does one, take support in terms of, getting it done from someone, who are the right people who can help, and when that actually happens, what is my role as a founder, and how do I support the people who are helping me?
so I think when you just start, when you feel you have the time and the
Yeah.
interest and the discipline to
Yeah.
do it yourself, you
Yeah.
should start with recording your daily sales. You should write down every single expense that you make, possibly
Yeah.
keep the invoices for the bigger spends, because that might be required when you go for an audit.
Yeah.
Your bank statement should be available, the banking, the payment, what payments you've done, which invoices are paid, which invoices are yet to be paid. Similarly for sales, if you're making credit sales, whether you've received the money, what money is yet to come in. So basic profit and loss you should understand. You should understand whether your business is profitable or not. So you should
Yeah.
maintain enough records for you to be able to judge that. That is when you're just starting out.
Hmm.
As soon as your business gets into a growth phase,
Hmm.
you start earning money. It is a smart decision to
Hmm.
let the professionals handle it.
Hmm.
Because, see, it could be an in house person. You could hire a professional, you could hire an accountant, you can hire a senior accountant in your organization. If you feel that's not required, you can outsource it to an external agency.
Sure.
People who are professional, who are skilled to take up these jobs. So
Sure.
the decision as to when that person needs to be hired, it depends on till when you're being able to stay on top of your accounts by doing it yourself. The moment
Hmm.
you feel that, okay, I can no longer do it myself, if I continue to do it myself, it is going to hamper my core competency. Like, I'm a business owner, I have a business to run. My
Sure.
strength lies in the product or service that I offer. The
Sure.
moment the accounting part comes in the middle of this, you start to feel that because of this, I'm not being able to focus on my main business, and I'm also not doing this properly with the kind of discipline that it requires. That is the time
Yeah.
you decide to move on to either an in-house or an outsourced person to do it. There are numerous tools available today.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
If
Hmm.
you start with Excel, you can just maintain your daily sales register, your daily purchase register on Excel. You can
Hmm.
make sure that you keep checking your bank statements, and you can keep reconciling it, that okay, whatever payments you've made, it's matching with your bank statement. You can also keep checking whatever money you are getting and it's being recorded correctly.
Hmm.
But for a growth stage business, I would highly recommend that you seek help to do it.
Interesting.
Softwares,
Interesting.
so many softwares, like
Yeah,
if
I
you
want to
start,
come to the softwares. Yeah, I do want to come to the software. So before that, one question, in terms of what you are saying, that let's say the next stage is to move on and get support from a professional, right? In this case, as I still need to be in charge as a founder, what are some of the key metrics that I should you know be in charge of, or be in the knowledge of, even as a professional is working for me? What are the core KPIs, what are the core metrics that I should have an eye on and get a regular update on?
Okay, so one is cash flows.
Hmm.
You need to know whether you are being able to generate enough cash to be able to run your business,
Sure.
right? Second
Hmm.
is your margins. You need to have healthy gross margin, net margin. Your business should be profitable for you to run that business long term. By
Yeah.
making, bookkeeping, one of the main reasons why we maintain books is so that we can take the risk, to help us in decision making.
Hmm.
When you look at your books, you understand that which product is doing well, which service is doing well, what should I pivot. Is this vertical making more money for me? Should I focus more on this vertical? Is this vertical a loss making vertical? Should I not spend any more money on that vertical?
Sure.
So, right, profitability, cash flows are very, very important. Compliance is the bare minimum. So you, as an owner, even if someone else is handling the entire bookkeeping, accounting for you, you should at least be aware that you're being compliant. Most companies can have a compliance calendar, where
Hmm.
you know the list of compliances that you need to
Hmm.
do throughout the year, and you can keep checking with your team whether those compliances are in order. So you don't necessarily need to do it, but you still need to be aware of what is happening. You should be able to ask your accountant that, okay, tell me how my business did in the last 6 months, and you should be able to get that data from them, preferably at a click of a button or in real time. So if you're being
Hmm.
able to do that, that means your business is in the right hands. And that kind of control is required. Even if you have outsourced everything, you need to be in charge of these numbers, your cash flow
True.
numbers, your profitability numbers, your compliances. You need to be sure that your compliances are being met. So that kind of information you should be able to get from anybody who's handling your bookkeeping. And
Absolutely.
it should
No.
enable you to make decisions, right? Any
Huh.
decision that you want to make, you can get
Right.
back to your person and tell them that, listen, I want to understand. So basically what happens, you know you need a person to interpret the books for you. So whatever
Huh.
you don't understand, that person should be able to explain that to you, and any answers that you require about numbers, the person should be able to give you that answers.
The
That is what
insights from that.
the
The
insights
insights
the
from the data.
insights right. You
Hmm.
should be able to track your expenses. So if you should be able to tell the person that, I want to know, where did I make most of my expenses, where can I cut down on my expenses, what is the
Hmm.
unit economics of my product. So
Hmm.
all these questions, you need to know the answer, as a business owner, and your books should be able to answer these questions for you.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, being able to interpret the data into stories is exactly what you're saying. And that
Yes,
is what is
100%.
critical.
Because
Hmm.
see, we are in a place where everything is changing so fast.
Yes.
Something that works today will not work tomorrow. So there has to be something that's constant, something that you can rely on. And numbers
True.
usually don't lie. So when you go to the numbers, and if the numbers are speaking a story, you know that, okay, if my numbers say my business is not doing well, it's not doing well. You might feel that you're making a lot of sales, your business is flourishing, but it has to reflect on your numbers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If
So true.
so, yeah, it's absolutely very, very important to have a track of some basic parameters. At least your cash flows and profitability is something that every founder should be aware of.
Yeah.
Whether they're
Yeah.
running a profitable business, or whether the business
Sure.
actually has a good future, or what should they change about the business to make
Yes,
it better.
yes. As you said, what's doing better, how are the
Yes.
unit economics looking like, etc. Right. You also mentioned about things changing very fast, which is very true, which is what also brings me to this segment, which is about the softwares, right? And
Yes.
also, as per the question from Priyanka as well, that, what are the automation tools? How do you reduce the manual burden? And, as you said, that, people don't like it because it's so burdening and so,
Yes.
pushing on their disciplinary measures. How do we work with tools to make this easy for us, right? If you can shed some
So,
light on.
yeah. So today, thankfully, there are a lot of tools available. Even the traditional tools like Tally, they have options where you can integrate your bank statements with that. So,
Hmm.
as a founder, all you need to do is categorize your expenses. So, if you've made like five expenses, you just need to tell the software that this expense is for my Uber ride, this expense is for the meal that I had that day, this
Hmm.
expense is for my marketing, this expense is for, you know, for
Sure.
something else. So, once you do that, most of the softwares make it very easy. You don't necessarily need to be an accountant.
Hmm.
Zoho, QuickBooks no longer in India, but Zoho, QuickBooks, Tally,
Pepper, I
most
guess,
of
is
them,
also very nice. Hmm.
yes. So they have given enough options for non-bookkeepers and people who do not have accounting as their primary skills to be able to maintain books of accounts at least at the early stage, where the taxes are not applicable on you. See, once the taxes come into play, it does get a little complicated to be able to do it yourself. But till the taxes are not applicable to you, a lot of these cloud accounting software, specifically Vyapar is there, Zoho is there, they will allow you to to automate a lot of, you can get reports at a click of a button if you've just kept your records properly. So today you want to know what's my receivable, what's my payable, you just go to the report section, click on that button, and that information is available with you. You
Hmm.
can just integrate your banks, your credit cards, even your FDs with these softwares, and you get a real time information as to how much money I've spent, how much money
Hmm.
I've earned. So the report section, the analytics section, it helps you analyze your book. So numerous tools are available, and
Yeah. Also, these tools are consistently evolving and trying to come up with better,
every
more
day,
supportive.
yeah, every day. So
Yeah.
they have, almost all these tools have made an ecosystem of softwares around their main bookkeeping
Sure.
software, so you can pretty much run your entire business around these tools.
Makes sense.
So
Wow.
yeah, it saves time, and time is everything for, especially if you're doing it yourself. Then all you want, the reason why people hesitate is people think that you're wasting your time doing this, or this is not the best use of your time. So when these softwares come into play, they do save a lot of time and energy, also effort, and a lot of things are recurring. So you can also set systems in place where if you once you've told the software that this kind of expense is for this thing, every time that transaction happens, it'll auto record that expense into
Interesting.
that category. So yeah, it does make life much easier.
Okay. You also mentioned about, when taxes become applicable, this becomes a little layered. If you can shed some light on that, then when do taxes become applicable? As we have a question also, and also once it's applicable, what are the layers and how does is it possible to navigate it, or is it best handed over to a professional?
So there are multiple taxes in our country. So one is income tax, which is applicable once a year, where we all have a habit of going to a chartered accountant or whoever is filing our return. We go to that person, and that is taken care of. So for that, essentially, you don't need a regular tax compliance for an income tax, which happens like once a year. Regular
Correct.
tax compliance comes into play when you are applicable for GST. So the GST limits are 40 lakhs if you are into product business, and 20 lakhs if you are into a service business. So once you cross that threshold, then GST is applicable on you. Now, once GST is applicable, unless you don't understand GST, I would highly recommend that seek
A
professional help,
professional.
because you can't afford to make mistakes. The mistakes are really costly.
Hmm.
When it comes, there's another kind of tax that is applicable, that is TDS, tax deducted at source, which is
Yeah.
applicable if you've crossed a turnover of 1 crore in the previous year. That is when it's usually applicable. So what
Hmm.
happens is that for non private limited and LLPs, if you're a private limited and LLP, it is applicable from day one, the
Hmm.
tax deducted at source. So everybody who's been a salaried employee ever in their life, they know that the tax was being deducted when they were getting their paychecks. So even as business owners, we need to deduct tax when we are paying different vendors. This is one mistake that most small business owners make. You have created a private limited company for yourself. TDS is applicable from day one. Any
Hmm.
payment that you're making in terms of salary, if you're making a payment to a professional, to maybe even to your chartered accountant, if you've made a payment, if you're making a payment to anybody, you need
Yeah.
to deduct that tax and make the payment. I think a lot of people are not even aware of this and are non-compliant when it comes to this particular category. of taxes. So GST you're still aware because you've
Yeah,
gone ahead
yeah.
and
It's
taken the
so
GST
commonplace.
registration.
So.
So right, you
Hmm.
know that okay, I have run
Hmm.
now applied for GST, so this GST is applicable on me. TDS is
Hmm.
something that is applicable on every private limited company, every limited liability company, but and that is applicable for payment as low as 30,000. So if you pay someone 30,000, you need to deduct 10% of tax if you're paying to a professional.
Sure.
I am so sure that so many people are doing these payments on a regular basis without deducting these taxes. So this is
Wow.
one huge area of non-compliance. Mostly till you don't get caught, it's easy to navigate. Once you get the notice, it's very difficult to fight these notices. Especially these notices come for 2 years, 3 years, older
Hmm.
years, and most of the times people don't even have records to fight
Hmm.
these notices. So that
Hmm.
is one area which I really come across very very often, that people have
Sure.
ignored this part. If you're paying salary to someone which is a higher, so the threshold for salary is quite high these days, but if you are paying a lot of salary to someone, you need to deduct TDS for their salary as well.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
have a
yeah, which is
contract.
exactly, yeah, which is exactly why Ruchi has been mentioning, consistently that it's a non-negotiable, right? Once it's in the
Yes.
book, then you know where you're going wrong and how you can
Exactly. So,
correct it.
then I know. So, when I look at someone's books, so for
Mm,
example, if I'm making a payment to a digital marketing company, a
mm,
professional fees, it could be something like a 20,000 every month, right?
correct,
I need to
correct.
deduct TDS on that.
Hmm.
But then
Hmm.
so many people will be doing that because without maintaining your books, first, you don't even know how many thresholds you've already crossed.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Second, so a lot of these things, they become much easier. The decision making becomes much easier. The compliances, they become much easier once you're aware of your numbers. Once you have the
True,
numbers in front of you.
true. Which can be achieved by doing something so simple as just maintaining a discipline and ensuring that
Yes.
everything that you do gets recorded and is maintained as a book, right? Amazing, amazing insights today, Neha, from you. As we draw to a close, any more exciting stories that you can tell which will just really help our audience to just hammer it down their heads, keep we just have to do it now no matter what we feel about it, right? So anything like that would be such a great insight to end this with.
So there was this one particular client who was GST who was not GST registered, and they were constantly making export sales. This
Okay.
was a travel company, and because most of their sales were export sales, they did not get themselves GST registered. However, they did have a small portion of domestic sales as well. Now, when you read the GST fine print, if you have domestic and export sales and you cross the threshold of 20 lakhs, you ought to be GST registered. Because they were not GST registered, they'd crossed a turnover of over 1 crore in ticketing, because it's very easy in ticketing to cross
Yeah.
a bigger
Yeah.
turnover. Now
Yeah.
the GST department comes back to them and demands an 18 lakhs on that 1 crore as tax, with interest and penalty, total amounting to say 35 lakhs.
Wow. Hmm.
This person has not made 35 lakhs in profit for the transaction that they did, and
Sure.
now there is a notice of 35 lakhs that has come to them just because this simple compliance was missed.
Miss. Yeah.
So see, you can always, I mean, in this particular case, the records were corrected, everything was done, but this didn't need to be done. There was no requirement to take so much of a headache at a later date, because a simple process at the year one would have saved them from all these hassles. So this
Absolutely.
is one crazy story. Like, you've done a 1 crore turnover, you've made 4 lakhs in profit, and you have a GST notice of 35 lakhs for that particular year.
Yes.
So these kind of things keep happening, especially, see, this happens when you've suddenly grown. So last year I was a mid-sized business, suddenly something happened, and this year I'm a big business, but then I've not had enough time to set up the system
Yeah.
for my growth. So if you were
Yeah.
doing it from day one, it would
Yeah.
have been easier. You would have eased into this whole compliance thing. But what happens is that it happens so suddenly, and you feel, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Until that time, your business has grown, and now it's difficult for you to correct everything from a retrospective effect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
these
absolutely. You've set the right note to kind of, conclude this, because if you are taking, if you take the first step right, then you are able to, then it just means that no matter where you go and how far go and how
So I
big your
think
company.
Ruchi is asking a
Yes, I'll
question.
come there. Yes, I'll come there. So I was just saying that you
Yeah.
said the tone really correctly, concluding it very, very correctly in the sense of, if you get your initial bit right, then it's a habit that you've built, and no matter how big you grow, you kind of, keep growing with it. Yes, Ruchi was asking about, what was the compliance exactly?
So,
And
we had to go back to the GST officers. We had to produce all the inward remittance certificate received by the bank to prove that all of this was an export turnover. So, out of the 1 crore, most of it, like 95 lakhs, was export turnover. So, we had to prove that all of this was export. We had to create, produce backdated agreements describing the nature of these exports, and we had to plead that the client has not made any money out of this transaction, and this has happened due to inadvertence, and not it was not a willful mistake by them. They had to pay
sure,
GST on the 5 lakhs of domestic transaction that they did, but
sure,
for the remaining 95 lakhs, thankfully, we could produce all the documents, and therefore they could escape the tax. The right practice would have been to take the GST registration, then it would have been nil returns mostly, but
correct.
even the nil return is very important to be compliant. So a lot, so
Yeah,
I can take a registration. I know that most of my transactions will not be in the purview of GST, but I'll need to still file a nil return every month. I
yeah,
cannot
and
miss
this
that.
is an awareness that can come when you are doing your bookkeeping and you have a eye on everything, every money
Yeah,
that
so
comes.
when you see, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. Thank you, Namita, for your, glad to know that you also got the value out of it. That yes, the TTS point, as Neha said, many, many people miss out. So, yeah, awesome. So, Neha, I'm totally like 30 minutes have just flown past in a blink, and you've given us so much of important information, which, as you said, is so important and so basic at a starting level. But many, many people miss out on it, possibly because, they are averse, or they don't really see the importance, or they are perhaps too focused on their core business to really see this. But as you said, it's an important habit that once built in the right way can give compounding benefits as you grow your business. Yeah, so I hope everybody who's seen this live and who will be seeing this live eventually gets to learn that and incorporate that as a good habit, very much like the exercising example that we gave in the beginning, right? Neha, thank you so much for making this so, so simple for us. And it was a really exciting chat. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you, Gunjan. I had a great time. I'm so
Super.
happy that you invited me. It was wonderful.
Oh, it was a pleasure. And to everybody else, we will see you next week. Keep watching us and Hen Live and keep doing good. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.